is enamel spray paint. The enamel spray paint looks fantastic. It really makes your mold look nice. But the enamel spray paint is an actual nightmare to do, because you have to do it so many times. Now this mold here has been painted with the enamel spray paint. As you can see, it's real shiny. Now this is a two-piece mold that I made to inject lizard bait. Normally when you make a two-piece mold, you're going to have alignment points. You can see I drilled holes. My alignment points broke off, which can happen. It's no big deal. So I made new alignment points. I took a drill, drilled a hole through it, and I'll use a couple of screws and I'll have my alignment points. So when this fits together, it only fits one way even without the alignment points, and it holds solid. The enamel works really good as far as the bait release goes. The problem with it is it takes about a week to do a mold. You'll pour the mold and it'll be ready to go. Literally, this mold I could have poured in an hour and had both pieces another hour in the oven or so at 225, coat it with Elmer's glue, and it's ready to use. To use the enamel, you have to spray paint it. Well, you can't spray paint it all at once if you want to keep your detail. You can see the detail in the tails, all the little marks to displace water. You got the little ribs in there. And actually on the top, you even have the eyes. And you can see the ribs on the belly. So you want a lot again on the tail. You want the detail to remain. So in order to do that, you have to do tons and tons of light coats every few minutes. You can't do it with it real humid. The paint won't dry. Even when it's not humid, it dries very slow. It takes hours and hours for it to actually fully dry. You can reapply coats every few minutes. Also, the other thing with the paint, and the Elmer's glue does it too, but it's not doesn't seem as bad. See right there? That's the paint. It came off. It came off around the hole and it came off around the lizard. I could literally probably just about peel this paint off this mold. So you have to be very careful after the paint is on there. I'm still experimenting with other ways to seal the molds that are A, faster, and B, easier. But this mold will produce a very nice bait. And it's a homemade mold. We'll cover making molds a little bit more. So this is another mold design that you have. Okay, and the last is my favorite. Unfortunately, it's also the most expensive. Aluminum. This is an injection mold, but actually I hand pour this mold. There's no fine details. This is a Senko. All you have to do is get the plastic in the hole and it fills up and it's good. So I hand pour this bait. It's actually easier for me to hand pour it than inject it. Injection has its own set of difficulties, which we will discuss in another video. But you can see it has excellent detail. You assemble it. Guess I could show you that, but I mean it's not complicated. It's got alignment pins. You can see them there. Assemble it. Put the screw on, and that's it. It's ready to pour. Heat up your plastic. In 5 minutes, I can be pouring Senkos out of this. Now, the aluminum molds, those baits can't come out just like out of a store. That's a mold that I hand poured in that bait that I hand poured in that mold, rather. And it's just like a store-bought bait. You couldn't tell the difference. The only way you can really tell is I have colors here that you can't get in the store. Matter of fact, store-bought, hand poured. That mold was actually on sale. It was like 65, 70 bucks. This is another aluminum mold. This one you have to inject. This one has fairly small parts. This mold isn't as friendly as the other one because the alignment pins are removable. I'm not sure why they did it that way. It's kind of a pain, but it's not that big a deal. Okay, this is a 2-part fish mold. This is very similar to a Zoom Fluke. And that's the other half. That's the deep half, the belly half. You can see you have the injection runner that goes all the way down this. So you have one injection point and it fills up all the baits. So this mold you have to inject. But it actually injects very easy because it does all 3 baits at the same time. So I don't have any trouble injecting with this mold. I actually love this mold. This mold was 125 bucks. So if you want to get into doing plastics, you can spend literally thousands and thousands of dollars on products that are already available. If you can find a product that a bait type that you like. It's way too easy. It's not even, that is only part of it also. Like if I'm doing injection molding on this Fluke, right now I only have the one mold. So I heat up my plastic, I inject this. Then I wait a couple of minutes, I can take it apart, I can reassemble it, and I can inject it one more time if I make a cup of plastic. If I don't make a cup of plastic and I only make a half a cup, I can inject it once, then I have to reheat my plastic. But a cup of plastic will hold temperature long enough for me to inject it. I guess we could do a video on injecting later, because that does have some tricks to it that are rather difficult. Not really difficult, I guess. You just have to know about them because there's so many little details that you can do that make it so much easier when you're working with plastic. The forums are excellent places to get the information. You can really learn a lot on those. So those are all of the mold types that I have here. These are open pour. This is open pour. This is hand pour or eject. Same with these, hand pour or eject. Typically if it has one opening per bait, you can hand pour it. If it's one opening for multiple baits, it's definitely going to be an injection mold. You need the pressure to fill up all the baits. And also there's relief lines in these to let the air out. If you see on the tail, there's very fine lines. No plastic goes out those lines, it's too fine, but it does allow the air to go out and the plastic to fill the cavity. These I made out of that mold. This is like a moss, I call it moss watermelon. It's a little lighter watermelon color. And then this is just some leftover plastic that I had that I darkened up with black because I couldn't make any other color out of it that I wanted. So you have these two baits here that I made. Didn't take any time at all. And this is an original Fluke bait in the middle. And you can see very little difference between those 3 baits. Very little. The beauty is I can make whatever color I want now. And even some 2-color baits that I made with that mold. And we can go over that. That's quite a challenge. Not really difficult. Most of this stuff isn't difficult if you have good technique. Most of it is time consuming, especially multiple colors, very time consuming. I think that about does it on the molds.